The battle for Willow Creek. It was a crisp October morning in 2024, and I was savoring the quiet at my riverside cabin in Willow Creek, a small community nestled along the banks of the Green River in Oregon. My name's Ethan Carter, a 36-year-old carpenter who's been crafting custom wooden signs for the past decade. I moved out here to escape the grind of city life, trading honking horns for the hum of my workshop and the scent of fresh pine. That morning, I was sanding a cedar plank for a client's bookstore sign, my coffee steaming on the bench, when a sharp knock at the door broke my rhythm. Thinking it was a delivery, I opened it to find a stranger in a tacky suit, clipboard in hand, gesturing at my living room like it was his personal showroom. Behind him, a gaggle of people peered through my windows, and a garish, "Open House Today" sign was staked in my front yard, my address plastered across it in bold red letters. My heart skipped a beat. What the hell was going on? The guy, who introduced himself as Nathan Reed, a realtor with a smile that screamed used car lot, said he was invited by the Willow Creek HOA president, Clara Winston. She was a 55-year-old woman with a severe blonde bob and a walk that oozed authority, like she was born to boss people around. Clara strolled up my driveway, her heels clicking, and declared my cabin was part of a community enhancement project. She handed me a document titled Notice of Neighborhood Development Review, full of legal jargon about optimizing underutilized riverfront properties. It was stamped with signatures from HOA board members, but something about it felt off, too polished, too vague. I stood there in my flannel, coffee mug in hand, as strangers asked about square footage and whether my furniture was included. I told them to get off my property, but Clara just smiled, saying it was for the neighborhood's benefit. Her tone made my skin crawl, like I should thank her for trying to sell my home out from under me. I sat at my kitchen table that night, poring over the notice. The language was slippery, hinting at mandatory cooperation without clear authority. I called my buddy, Lucas Hayes, a real estate lawyer with 12 years under his belt. He laughed when I read him the document. "This is nonsense," he said. "No HOA can just decide to sell your house. Keep everything theory flirting with fraud." The next day, I visited my neighbor, Margaret Ellis, a 70-year-old retired librarian who's lived here forever. She was weeding her garden when I told her about the surprise open house. Her eyes widened. "Clara's been sniffing around riverfront properties for months," she said, showing me a similar letter about her underutilized backyard. We sipped iced tea at her kitchen table, piecing together a pattern. Another neighbor, Jack Larson, got a notice about his private dock, suggesting it be repurposed for community use. He'd seen Clara snapping photos of our properties with a fancy camera, like she was building a catalog. I dug into the HOA records at the county office, finding covenants that explicitly protected homeowners from this kind of overreach. The signatures on Clara's notice didn't match the official ones, too, were outright forgeries. Property records showed riverfront values had spiked 25% in 2 years, making our homes prime targets for developers. Clara, a former real estate agent, seemed too cozy with the idea of community transitions. Was she working a deal with investors? I started to wonder. Things escalated fast. One Tuesday, Clara showed up with a locksmith, waving a paper claiming maintenance access rights for an inspection. The locksmith, a nervous guy in his 40s, hesitated, saying he needed a court order. Clara's voice carried across the street, loud enough for Margaret and Jack to hear from their yards. She was performing, painting me as the problem neighbor. I told them to leave, or I'd call the cops. The locksmith bolted, but Clara's glare said this wasn't over. I drove to the hardware store, bought heavy-duty deadbolts, and installed a wireless security system. The new locks clicked with a satisfying thud, like a line in the sand. That night, I carved a sign from a slab of maple. Private property. Not for sale. Owner occupied. It took 3 hours, the router's hum calming my nerves as I etched each letter deep. The next morning, my cameras caught Clara creeping around my yard, tugging at the sign's post, set in concrete, not budging, and testing my new locks. She spent 10 minutes photographing everything: me doors, my cameras, even the sign, then sat in her car, making calls and scribbling notes. Her intensity unnerved me. What was she planning? By Thursday, she'd gone public, posting a rant on the neighborhood's social media page, accusing me of obstructing progress. She included photos of my sign and cameras, claiming I was harassing her. Comments exploded. Some neighbors bought her story, others smelled a rat. A user from Clara's old neighborhood hinted at her history of shady HOA tactics, sparking my curiosity. I messaged them and learned she'd been ousted from her last HOA for financial irregularities. I fought back, building a website called Willow Creek Truth, uploading scans of the forged signatures, fake notices, and security footage. I printed QR codes on utility poles, linking to the site. Within a day, it had 400 hits. Then Jack's wife, Emily, shared a video she'd accidentally recorded of Clara's locksmith stunt, capturing her claiming board authority she didn't have. The clip went viral, racking up 6,000 views and catching the eye of a state fraud investigator. Real estate investors called, thinking my cabin was for sale, and I had to clarify it wasn't. A reporter from the Attorney General's office reached out, saying Clara's actions might be part of a larger fraud network. Clara doubled down, setting up a slick Riverside opportunity showcase across the street, complete with banners and catered snacks. Investors in suits arrived, eyeing my cabin like it was already theirs. I rolled out my workbench, offering coffee and custom coasters with QR codes to my site. Learn the real story, my hand-painted sign read. Investors scanned the codes, their faces shifting as they read about the forgeries. One, a sharp-eyed guy named Victor Grant, made a call. Run a check on Clara Winston. He returned, grim-faced, and announced Clara's prior fraud conviction and probation status. She was banned from development activities. Clara's composure cracked. She made frantic calls, the riverfront deal's falling apart. We need the backups, right in front of everyone. The investors left, murmuring about her scam. A certified letter slid under my door the next morning from Riverside Legal Services, demanding I remove my site for defamation. Lucas laughed it off as fake. The attorney wasn't registered, and the letter was a template. I called Detective Laura Bennett, who was already tracking Clara's network across 3 counties. She revealed Clara's crew targeted riverfront homes, using fake HOA authority to pressure sales for profit. Some owners faced vandalism or worse for resisting. Keep documenting, she urged. And watch your back. The HOA board called an emergency meeting, packed with residents. I laid out my evidence-forged signatures, fake notices, Clara's trespassing footage. Margaret exposed $4,200 in misused HOA funds for Clara's banners and locksmith. Clara strutted in, claiming it was all approved. Then she played a doctored audio, splicing my voice to sound like I'd threatened her life. The room gasped, but I played my unedited recordings, exposing her lies. Detective Bennett walked in, announcing charges for fraud, embezzlement, and probation violation. Clara's rant about bigger forces was cut short as she was cuffed and led away. 3 months later, in January 2025, I sat on my deck, the river shimmering under the dawn. Clara's conviction was swift, her assets seized to repay the HOA. New rules, dual signatures, audits protected us. The neighborhood bonded, with Margaret as our new president and Jack leading a watch program. My sign business exploded, shipping property rights signs nationwide. The Riverside Act passed, safeguarding homeowners. Victor, now a friend, connected me to fraud investigators, and I testified in court. Clara's brother, the attorney, faced charges too. Her network spanned 20 communities, with millions recovered. That fight wasn't just about my cabinet, stopped a predator. But her final words haunt me. Who were those bigger forces? What would you do if someone tried to steal your home like this? Would you fight or fold under pressure? Could you spot a fraudster in your own neighborhood? Hit that like button, share your thoughts below, and subscribe. You've all got a line to hold.